rules. What do we expect tomorrow, even as they maintain that as a people, they are going to make sure that they mobilize their team to make sure that they hit the streets, to picket and to as well speak to the concerns of the people of Kenya, asking the government to perhaps soften their stance, especially in the question of taxes. Karibu sana. It is good to have you. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE. What do you make of these key matters that are playing out in the country and others that we'll be deciphering on? Of course, later on, also we shift gears to a different conversation that revolves around your concern, especially at that moment that you are a tenant or you are a landlord. What are some of the things to understand as regards to the relationship between these two? It is basically a conversation that you do not want to miss out on. Later, towards the last hour of the broadcast, we'll be deciphering on that with specialists from the Landlord Tenant Association, as they would help us perhaps understand some of the key rules that you need to understand so that we have all a seamless relationship. As of course we get to that level, we will be taking a look as well at the papers this morning, what is detailed on the Standard newspaper, what is on the People Daily, as well as the Daily Nation, and we'll be as well deciphering on some of these stories that are captured right here. Once again, it would be good to hear from you. Karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe, and my name is Linda Alela. The broadcast begins right away from that moment of motivation. Allow us to briefly look at the papers, and then we get to the discussion with the gentleman that will help us speak to it. We'll also be having an advocate of the High Court that will speak to these matters of cases between the government as well as how they are determined by the courts. The Standard newspaper this morning: auctioneer trains his hammer on a billionaire. Of course, it's not been all easy for David Langat. They say wines and dines with the high and mighty. But of course, his property portfolio is in the envy of global investors. But to auctioneers, he is a loan defaulter, and that certainly puts him, of course, or his multi-billion tea estate and Mombasa property under the hammer. This is quite an interesting piece that has been captured on page 3 of the Daily Nation. Just why is the argument that perhaps he's not been able to pay maybe his loans and all that. Certainly one piece that you'd want to read. You get an extensive report on page 3. But away from it, of what or of concern to the entire country, the reasons your child is not safe at school. This is according to a report that is presented by the presidential bit or the presidential task force that was speaking to basically what the education sector needs to do in terms of making sure that we have all these changes. It is a story that is captured, I think, on page 4. Yes, should be on page 4. Revealed why public schools are no longer safe for your children. And violence, drug abuse, teenage pregnancies, and mental health are some of these key issues that have been highlighted, and especially in public entities, as some of the things that our children are exposed to at a very early stage. And children learning in public schools are increasingly facing these threats that lead to harm, disruption of their education, and equally high dropouts of them, of course, from school. The findings of an education task force also revealed the emergence of new threats to learners in schools that put the children's lives and future at risk. You need to look at this report, and perhaps we all need to have a conversation as a country as to what we need to make sure that to do. That is to make sure we protect our very own children from this, vulnerable situations as captured on page 4, but certainly also having been presented by the task force of that was set by the president. We certainly hope that the Ministry of Education will take such reports with the seriousness that it deserves to make these necessary adjustments. Relief after court puts a break on new taxes. How much of a relief is it for you, the people? How much of, a problem is it for the government? We'll be speaking to it, on the overview, understanding very well that this is a matter that is in court. And now that, Justice Tande has presented it to the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, to set up at least three judge bench so that they can as well look into this matter as captured on page 3. We'll be looking at it later. Raila's 15 million signature puzzle. Well, it is now at 15 million, and you ask yourself, why do they need all these signatures? But does it then speak to the concerns that the people of Kenya, have? Of course, upon that interesting moment yesterday, as he used a matatu all the way to town and had a moment of day with his fans or his supporters, or basically with Kenyans. The Azimio leaders, of course, will today launch the collection of a million signatures, or 15 million signatures from Kenyans who express discontent with the government. However, opinion is split on what then will follow after this exercise that many would argue is not easy. They have tried getting a million signatures before, never been easy. Of course, as stipulated, a million is perhaps the number that would be required legally. But then again, there's no limit as to how far one can go. And maybe the Right Honorable Raila Odinga looks at this as a way of making sure that indeed most Kenyans get a chance to participate on that, to, register their concerns as to how the government is handling activities. Those are the key stories on the Standard newspaper. Briefly on what the Daily Nation has, how mobile phone gave away suspect in murder case on a warm Sunday afternoon on May 23rd. Robert Waliaula Kinusu sat in a tent at an entertainment joint, sipping his beer, oblivious of what was about to happen to him. A story captured on page 2 and speaks to this case that has been ongoing since, I think, 2021. Is one interesting story as captured on page 2, but certainly, of course, on a mission of justice for the one that lost life. And of course, IMF board meets to decide on Kenya's new 57.8 billion loan. This is an interesting story that is captured on the back page of the Daily Nation, as I have it right here. Speaks to just, some of the conditionalities that are accorded to most of the African countries and most of the countries that would seek to get loans or funding from the IMF. We have seen President William Ruto, alongside other African countries, castigating the IMF as to the tough measures that they always put before they accord the people of Africa loans. But certainly also a conversation that is ongoing is just how possible is a country capable of staying without being in good books with the IMF in the event that they want to survive or to manage, because most of the countries have not been lucky enough to be able to collect revenue that would sustain their budget. And so the IMF board is also to discuss loan request and a resilience and sustainability facility, as members of parliament removed a 10 trillion ceiling and replaced it with a percentage of GDP. It's a developing story that we'll be following up on to give you updates as to how then it pans out. Iranian president starts 3-day Kenya visit. We certainly hope to see what the discussions will be about the bilateral agreements that will be there between these two states, and equally a developing story that we'll be following up on to give you updates on what really this 3-day visit will be all about. Blocked in deciding or declining to lift freeze, judge say that Kenyans might be unfairly subjected to unlawful taxes. That is one of the main stories that we'll be discussing. Just what are the ramifications of this, brakes that have been slammed on the Finance Act? What will the government then do, even as it has quite tight, legal brains that actually are representing it? Some of them saying that they will be forced to go to the Court of Appeal to see to it that they are able to challenge this block, because they say this one risks to shut down the government. See the story that has been captured on page 7. Away from it, it is that partyless Uhuru's top allies lose court battle for Jubilee. That is a story that is there. The question is whether, of course, they are partyless. That is a story that is captured on the front page. And former President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday after his allies, and that is a former member of parliament Jeremiah Kioni, as well as David Murathe, lost the court battle for Jubilee Party. And now Mr. Kioni has filed his appeal at the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal on May of the 25th, after the party's registrar Andy Ruto declared that he and Mr. Murathe are, of course, had been duly removed from the office. We'll be looking at that as well as we continue with the broadcast and what it means for the former president, and equally, certainly the question is what it means for the Jubilee Party and those ones that are now allies, the faction that is allied to the government. And of course, there's a slight relief as July power prices dropped by 3.5%. That is a story captured on the front page, expounded on page 25. And also an interesting thing on the question of technology, just how technology service staff stand leading IT firm banks with a daring 91 million M-Pesa haste. And suddenly, at this point of AI, this point of technology, it is very, very important that we are keen on protecting our data, but of importance, we avoid those ones that are hackers, that hack into very, very humongous systems, suddenly destabilizing majority of entities. And that is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Briefly on what the People Daily has to say. Dispute over tax law goes to full hearing. A story captured on the front page of the People Daily, expounded on page 6. Judge Mugure Thande declines to lift freeze on Finance Act as proposed by Treasury and asks the CJ to form a bench to hear Omtata's case. That one will be following up to see what then happens. And a story also here. Costly loans to hurt borrowers. These Kenyans should brace themselves for. Banks have already warned hundreds of thousands of their customers, small businesses, that they will pay higher interest starting today. And SACCOs seek to cash in by enticing those burdened to transfer expensive loans. And also there's a moment of relief for contractors as the ministry orders 2.5 billion payout for competency-based classes. Director of Secondary Education Paul Kibet says that the money will be sent to each school where classrooms were built, and they will then pay the builders. We shelve from this and to some bit of politics that we'll be discussing this morning. Is one of the stories that is also here captured on the front page. Raila Kindiki face off over demo, and confrontation looms after the Interior CS warned the Azimio leader against leading protests in Nairobi. That is tomorrow, just hours after Raila held a surprise rally in the CBD. Those are the key stories. Allow us to look at what my team has worked on. And the Shakahola cult mystery continues to intensify with the discovery of 40 more graves. And this even as Principal Secretary for Lands, Nixon Korir, says that the 800 acres land does not belong to Pastor Paul Mackenzie.
With the exhumation of bodies in the Shakahola cult entering the fourth phase, 40 more graves, which are suspected to contain more bodies, have been discovered. The death toll has now hit the 300+ mark.
Tuko na makaburi 40 ambayo hajafunguliwa, na kila kaburi mengine tunashuku iko na zaidi ya maiti moja katika ile kaburi. Wale viongozi wa makanisa ama dini ambao wanafikiria tutakubalia eti kwa sababu kuna haki ya kuabudu kuwe na tukio lingine kama lile la Shakahola, hao wajue hatutalegeza kamba.
At the same time, Lands and Physical Planning Principal Secretary Nixon Korir says that there is no evidence of ownership of the 800 acres land in Shakahola in Kilifi County, allegedly linked to the controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie.
I wanted you to confirm whether from the Ministry of Lands, was there any charge, any transaction, any agreement, anything that was received within the ministry to verify that?
We are not aware of any lease to Mackenzie that is registered to us, and we are not aware of any dispute. We don't have any dispute in regards to the parcels of the lands in Shakahola. Allegations that Mackenzie has 800 acres. Chair, the allegations we've had also, but we don't have any evidence of Mackenzie owning any parcel of land there.
Korir was appearing before the Danson Mungatana-led ad hoc committee that has been tasked with probing the matter. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Now, 2 managers from Brown's Cheese Company Limited in Limuru who were arrested and detained over allegations of stripping and searching fellow female employees have Monday been released on a cash bond of 3,000 shillings, 300,000 Kenya shillings, or a cash bail of 150. This even as the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service Affirmative Action and Gender, Aisha Jumwa, condemned the incident, adding that her ministry was closely following on the matter.
After 4 nights at the Tigoni police station, Vivian Okamakoko and Lydia Opodo, who are Quality Assurance and Human Resource Manager respectively at the Brown's Cheese Company, can breathe a sigh of relief, albeit for a while.
I'm not satisfied on a balance of probabilities that there exists any compelling reason for the suspect's respondents to continue being detained in custody and to be denied bond. There are no compelling reasons as per the affidavit shown by the investigating officer and the submissions by the prosecution. The application is therefore disallowed. Each of the suspects is admitted to a bond of 300,000 shillings with one surety of similar amount, or a cash bail of 150,000 shillings, pending the approval of the charges to be preferred and taking of plea.
It's however not uhuru yet for the 2 managers who remain suspended, as they are required to report to the Sub-County Criminal Investigations Officers twice a week, on every Thursday and Monday.
This case will be mentioned on the 24th of July this year to confirm whether the suspects would have taken plea in the charges intended to be preferred.
According to the Senior Principal Magistrate Limuru Law Court's Jared Migori, it was not clear how many days the prosecution was seeking to hold the suspects. Vivian and Lydia allegedly forced female employees at Brown's Cheese to undress for a thorough search to establish who was on their monthly periods, and single out an employee who had allegedly disposed a sanitary towel in the wrong bin. The abominable act attracted uproar from various stakeholders, with Gender CS Aisha Jumwa Mandi weighing in on the matter.
Si haki ya mtu yoyote yule kuweza kumvua nguo mtoto wa kike ama mwanamke ili kumwangalia kama kweli ako kwa hedhi. Ni kitendo ambacho kimetughadhabisha sana. Mimi hasa kama kiongozi wa kina mama, na nashukuru kwa sababu idara ya polisi ama ya usalama iliingilia kati na walifika pale mapema, na wale waliofanya kitendo kile wametiwa nguvuni, tayari kuona mkono wa sheria.
She added that her ministry was closely following up on the matter.
Well, in the same breath, the government of Kenya has prioritized social development financing as a key pillar under the Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plans. Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, Aisha Jumwa, in the 20th anniversary celebrations of Maputo Protocol on the rights of women, noted that the government is very deliberate on the comprehensive development of the country and has significantly increased funding towards social development and more specifically to women programs.
Speaking in Nairobi during the 20th anniversary celebration of the Maputo Protocol on the right of women, Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, Aisha Jumwa, noted that key aspects of the social sector are specifically targeted for development under the bottom-up economy transformation agenda in the current administration. Jumwa also noted that globally, wide gender gaps between men and women, girls and boys still exist despite great efforts by member states toward building inclusive and prosperous economies and societies.
Tunasema kwamba tumeshare experiences, tumeshare best practices under the Maputo Protocol as a continent. So kuna vile Kenya imevuta hatua, and I can tell you for sure that wengi wanasoma from us.
The CS acknowledged the effort made by African Union Commission in persistently pursuing member states to sign and ratify the Maputo Protocol. 80% of the African member states have ratified the Maputo Protocol, symbolizing the willingness of African leaders to protect and promote women's rights on the continent.
Kupigana na dhuluma za kijinsia, uongozi katika nafasi za uongozi, na masuala ya kuinua kina mama kiuchumi. Ukumbuke ya kwamba Kenya as a country iko na pesa ambazo imetenga dedicated only for women of this country.
The CS says culture has always been used as a justification to the denial of women's rights as Africa continues to face traditional challenges. According to Pan-African Women Organization President Eunice Ipinge, the initiative has made significant progress in 44 African Union member states since inception. The protocol has provided a stage to identify major solutions on challenges faced by African women.
The Women Judges Association in this country is extremely strong. Thankfully, we are converted to the he for she movement. And so in that association, we have a lot of male colleagues.
Make sure that our case, through the minister, for more women in participation, increased numbers of women in political leadership.
The two-day event in Nairobi is being attended by delegates from the African Union member states and others from overseas. Duncan Mtua, TV 47.
Thank you, Dan, for that. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha has assured Kenyans of a new Kenya Medical Supply Authority that will enhance service delivery to Kenyans. The CS has promised her full commitment in ensuring a transparent cancer that will enable the government achieve its universal health coverage program.
KEMSA has been at the center of controversies since 2020, when the country was battling with COVID-19. From the corruption scandals touching on the procurement of personal protective equipment, the authority seems to attract all manner of controversies. However, as a way to give the agency a revamp, Health CS Susan Nakhumicha, in her meeting today with KEMSA officials and other suppliers in Nairobi, has announced a continued involvement of all stakeholders in the health sector with an aim of creating a transparent authority for quality service delivery.
But at times I wonder, if we have a syringe from Revital and a syringe that is important and it is 30% cheaper than the syringe from Revital, you know, we must ask ourselves this question. If we really want to do the right thing, we must ask ourselves this question.
The Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Mtava Molwa, has assured the suppliers of a timely payment procedure so as to ensure a smooth supply chain between stakeholders.
That there is a new commitment from the organization to first process their payments in good time, and we can give them letters of credit or payment plans to take to their bank so that they are able to get financing facilities to ensure that they support.
On his side, the chairperson of KEMSA, Irungu Nyakera, has urged the vendors to develop a standardized price list of their commodities to match with the market prices.
We value the collaboration and partnership of various stakeholders, such as yourselves in the healthcare sector. We understand that our success lies in our ability to work together toward a common goal. We remain committed to fostering open lines of communication and actively involving stakeholders in decision-making processes.
The suppliers and vendors who attended the meeting have expressed their faith in KEMSA, hoping for a better system that will restore its glory.
To the President, how can you ensure that KEMSA holds quarterly stakeholder engagement sessions so that we are periodically reviewing, not just waiting for a scandal to happen? How can we be engaged continuously?
Jackson Chacha, TV 47.
President William Ruto now says Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces must also agree to establish a humanitarian zone as war in the country intensifies. Speaking in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he chaired his first Intergovernmental Authority on Development meeting that is on Sudan peace process, the head of state noted that the move will stop the loss of lives, ease access to public services, and equally facilitate a settlement of the conflict. Micah Gungo reports.
As the conflict in Sudan escalates, the parties involved in the Sudan conflicts have been called upon to announce an immediate and absolute halt to hostilities.
A short health break.
President William Ruto has emphasized that both the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces must also consent to creation of a designated humanitarian zone.
Our meeting must address this unfolding situation. Critical is the need for an immediate assessment of the security and humanitarian situation with a view to ensuring that action is taken to protect the civilian population.
As the warring in Sudan intensifies, parties to the Sudan conflict have been asked to declare an unconditional ceasefire. This is despite the warring Sudan rejection and appointment of Kenyan President William Ruto as the head of a quartet to facilitate peace under the regional bloc.
Despite several initiatives to silence the guns, including the Jeddah rounds, for which we as a region thank the United States of America and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the conflict, however, continues unabated.
And call upon those in conflict to open a direct channel of communication under the patronage of the peace process quartet formed during the IGAD Assembly of Heads of State and Government.
Abdel Fattah Abdul-Rahman, the leader of the military regime, alleged that Nairobi had provided support to the Rapid Support Forces, led by Mohamed Hamdan Daglo Hemeti, who was previously his deputy but is now sworn adversary. Ruto has, however, insisted that ceasefire will prevent further casualties, improve the availability of public services, and enable resolution of the ongoing disputes. This, he pointed out, will lead to the resumption of the final phase of the political process.
Our meeting needs to pave way for an unconditional ceasefire that facilitates unhindered humanitarian access and ensures protection of civilians, stops loss of life, destruction of property, and critical infrastructure, and enables the people of Sudan to access public services.
He made the remarks on Monday in Addis Ababa during the IGAD Quartet Head of State and Government meeting that focused on the Sudan conflicts. President Ruto, who also chairs the IGAD Quartet, termed the situation in Sudan as dire, with data indicating that over 2.9 million people have been displaced. IGAD has maintained its commitment to the meditation quartet led by Kenya in its efforts to seek peace in Sudan.
The well-being of the people of Sudan and the stability of this great nation needs to be the guiding light for both sides.
This commitment remains intact even in the face of Sudan's rejection of the proposed resolution. And despite protests from the Sudanese government, officials who are knowledgeable about the decision have stated that the resolutions, which were announced in an official IGAD communique, will continue to be in effect until they are formally revised by the heads of state and government of the 8-member bloc. The death toll from the conflict stands at more than 2,000 as the crisis exerts more pressure on neighboring countries. In Darfur, Ruto added targeted inter-ethnic attacks were steadily spiraling towards the commission of genocide. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Away from that, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned the Azimio party-led Raila Odinga, or party leader Raila Odinga, on their upcoming protest against the Kenya Kwanza government. Speaking in Meru County during the opening event of the official opening of Igoji sub-county headquarters, Kindiki said the government will put the safety of the country and its people first. That is Wednesday, when the opposition hosts yet another protest against the government. Kindiki has said that the government will not allow the opposition to hold unlawful demonstrations that seek not only to disrupt public peace, but also the normal running activities of the country. Raila.
Tumepoteza watu 6 ambao wameuawa katika sehemu nyingi katika Kenya, eti walikuwa wakiandamana. Tuko na maofisa wa polisi pia ambao waliumizwa na mawe na vifaa butu ambao walipigwa nao na wananchi ambao walikuwa wanasema wanaandamana. Katiba inasema wale watu ambao wanaenda kufanya mambo yao wasibebe silaha, wasiumize watu, wasivuruge amani ya taifa. Na nimeona Imekuwa mtindo kila wakati kukiwa na maandamano, tunapoteza maisha ya Wakenya. Saa ingine tunaumiza polisi, wengine wamekufa katika ile maandamano ya Februari, tulipoteza afisa wetu wa polisi. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie, hatutakubali tena katika mchanga wa Kenya maandamano ya kuvuruga watu, kuua watu na kuharibu biashara za watu. We will not allow. We will not allow. Because hii nchi sio yenu peke yao, ni ya kila mtu. Hata wale hawako kwa maandamano ni nchi yao. Hata wewe ni nchi yenu. Kwani hii nchi ni yako peke yako? So, those extreme ideas that when you disagree on a political issue, you cause mayhem, you hurt people, you close businesses, you close public highways, you uproot, facilities. That culture must stop. And we are going to deal with you very firmly, decisively, and with finality.
Well, this as Monday, the Azimio leader Raila Odinga did things in an unusual manner, and which took many by surprise, where he opted to ditch his fuel guzzler fleet of vehicles and took public means transport to the Nairobi Central Business District. That is from his home in Karen. The former premier spent the better part of the day interacting with Kenyans in the streets, urging them to turn up for the anti-Kenya Kwanza protests slated for Wednesday. Mwage William followed Odinga's busy day at the CBD and filed this report.
In an e-way to Kenyans, Azimio leader Raila Odinga's day started with a walk to catch a public service vehicle from Karen. His destination, the Nairobi Central Business District. Odinga, in what took many by surprise, first engaged Kenyans, bought a newspaper, and then boarded a matatu, commonly referred to many Kenyans as a manyanga, that ferried Odinga. This time, away from the usual fleet of classy, flashy guzzlers or security detail clearing traffic for his convoy, the former premier was seen interacting with a number of city residents. On arrival at the CBD, he went to a shoe shiner who polished his shoes. Later, he walked and crossed from Tom Mboya Street, where he first paid his respect by saluting the statue of Tom Mboya and later the statue of Dedan Kimathi. The ODM leader then popped into a restaurant in Nairobi for breakfast before addressing a crowd which was already swelling. Unlike the chaotic scenes on Friday where police and protesters engaged in a fierce exchange, police officers kept off Odinga's procession and neither interrupted it, even as it momentarily brought the city under the sun to a standstill.
Leo tuliamua kuhisi vile wananchi wa kawaida wanahisi kila siku.
Odinga, while addressing the crowd, thanked his supporters on their conduct during the Sabasaba rally, reiterating that the protests were not to cause violence but to outline their grievances to President William Ruto over the high cost of living.
Tumesema sisi si majambazi. Sisi vilevile si watu ambao wanataka ugomvi kwa sababu ya ugomvi. Tunafanya kila kitu, tunafanya na sababu. Tumesema Wakenya wana sababu. Pili, Wakenya wana nia. Tatu, Wakenya wana uwezo ya kuleta mabadiliko kali ya maisha yao.
The Azimio leader, who was accompanied by other top officials in the opposition coalition, maintained that Wednesday's planned protest will take place amidst calls to call off the demos. Mwige William, TV47, Nairobi.
And the Finance Act 2023 remains suspended and the case will go to full trial. This is after High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended the conservatory orders pending hearing of the case. The judge has also forwarded the petition to Chief Justice Martha Koome to constitute a bench that will hear and determine the case.
Another week running, Kenyans waited with bated breath for directions from the corridors of justice.
Academic exercise
Last week, High Court Judge Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended conservatory orders barring implementation of the Finance Act 2023-2024 until today. Come afternoon, Lady Justice Mugure appeared again virtually to issue further directions. For starters, the judge noted that the petitioners have established a prima facie case, meaning the petitioners raise issues that must await full hearing.
Additionally, the lifting of conservatory orders will militate against the public interest as there is a real risk of the public being subjected to an unconstitutional law should the petition succeed. Further, the prejudice that will be suffered by the petitioners and the public by being subjected to a law that may ultimately be determined to be unconstitutional far outweighs the prejudice to be suffered by the respondents if the petition were to fail. Indeed, a determination in favor of the petitioners will be of no use to the petitioners and the public if in the meantime they are subjected to the impugned act. I am therefore satisfied that notwithstanding the presumption of constitutionality of legislation, there is merit in granting conservatory orders in respect of the Finance Act under challenge.
In her landmark ruling, Lady Justice Mugure Thande extended the conservatory orders until the case is heard and determined. Other orders issued by the judge are:
I find that it has not been demonstrated to my satisfaction grounds to warrant the setting aside of the orders of 30th of June 2023. I make the following orders. The applications dated 30th of June 2023 and 1st of July 2023 are hereby dismissed. The application dated 29th of June 2023 is hereby allowed. Pursuant to Article 165(4), this matter is certified as raising a substantial question of law, and the file is hereby transmitted to the Honorable the Chief Justice for assignment of a bench of not less than 3 judges to hear and determine the petition. No order as to costs.
The Attorney General, in his preliminary submissions, argued that the petitioners have put the country in a constitutional crisis arising from the suspension of the Finance Act.
The application dated 29th of June 2023 was for conservatory orders, and that application has been granted.
Okay, thank you.
All eyes will now be on the Chief Justice to constitute a bench to hear the case and determine it, owing to the fact that we are already in a new financial year.
Now, surrogacy remains a stigmatized matter in Kenya, lacking proper regulation. However, it is generally accepted as a viable fertility treatment. Meet Leah Wanja, a 30-year-old advocate for surrogacy, who is willing to offer her womb to a couple struggling with infertility. Our reporter Chichi Josephine has covered her. Of course, this is an inspiring story. Let's take a look.
She is an attractive 30-year-old woman, a CEO of a local interior design firm founded 4 years ago.
My name is Leah Odinga, born and raised in Nakuru. I'm 30 years old and I do interior design by profession.
Even though she promotes surrogacy, Leah doesn't fit in the often perceived form of making money as a surrogate. 2 years ago, Leah received an unexpected invitation from her cousin.
I got inspired by a family friend who didn't get a kid, and she was very desperate. She's getting to almost 40 years old and above, and she didn't get a kid. So she came to our family like a family friend because I'd just given birth and she wanted my baby.
She discloses that she has finally made up her mind to be a surrogate mother, effectively joining a growing number of Kenyan women who are renting out their wombs to carry other people's pregnancies, an issue that has taken her 2 years to think about.
I met the lady and she gave me a story. She has fertility issues and she's been struggling to get a baby. And the only solution is someone to carry the baby for her. That is what inspired me.
According to Dr. Justus Nondi, a fertility doctor in Nakuru, 2 out of 10 couples in Kenya are affected by infertility, while 3 out of 10 patients visiting health facilities in Nakuru have problems with conception.
Fertility is a big issue. In fact, it affects around 2 out of 10 couples in this country. And when they come, the reasons for not being able to conceive could be very many. We could have issues to do with the egg itself not being mature enough to come and be fertilized. We can have a situation where the uterus itself is not conducive.
He further explains the causes of infertility in women as he outlines the requirements of a surrogate mother.
Number one cause of infertility in our setup is infections. What we call pelvic infections, sexually transmitted infections, and all that. Another broad cause is what we call hormonal imbalance, where we just find the hormones of ladies not balanced enough to cause the eggs to mature well. So because of that, we end up with the ladies who are not able to have mature eggs, and therefore they don't undergo that process we are calling ovulation. The other broad cause is something called growths within the uterus, what we basically call fibroids. And fibroids can affect the chances of conceiving, the chances of having a pregnancy to term.
Usually, the commissioning parents and the surrogate mother engage a lawyer to draw up a contract based on some mutual understanding.
So although on the sides this has been happening, the courts have been interpreting that just basically as an, willing parties have come and agreed on something, but it's largely unregulated.
For commercial purposes, one would have to discuss this now one-on-one with the prospective parents or prospective couple.
Once the couple has chosen a surrogate through a surrogacy agency, the surrogate is vetted to ascertain that she is mentally and physically sound, according to Nonde.
The meeting point would generally be a fertility center like ours here, where we bring in the couple. Of course, the couple will have come in and evaluated and found out that her issues are around the uterus mainly. And then we bring in surrogates also. They have to also come through a fertility center like ours here. And then we initiate a discussion from that point.
However, there is really no regulative measure for surrogacy, thus opening up the process to corruption and other irregularities, according to lawyer Dorcas Nyambura.
We've had instances where, for instance, the commissioning parent will approach a surrogate mother and they'll come to an agreement of one child, but God blesses and then the surrogate mother gets multiple children, 2, 3, and you'll get the surrogate mother retaining 2 of the children and saying, no, we agreed on one child, so you take the one child, they retain the other 2 children. And then when you go to enforce such a contract in court, largely very unregulated, very unfair for the commissioning parents.
Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo sponsored a bill that seeks to entrench surrogacy and other assisted reproductive technologies into law, a bill that Dorcas says will streamline the surrogacy process if regulated by Assisted Reproductive Technology Authority.
A number of women, and the numbers keep rising, of women who are not able to then carry children on their own. And if then we are not able to assist them to be able to get children, that means we are not realizing their right to reproductive health.
But what do advocates of the bill think about?
I think for me it's something that we need to appreciate in our diversities even as we talk about families. Families can be generated from whichever aspect. There are women who do not have, whose uterus have been worn out. So how do they then have a generation to consider as their own family?
We are really in support of the bill, the surrogacy bill. So we need a law that is protecting both parties and even the party whereby if you are paying for that, so that it is clear, if I'm paying you, we agreed from the word go, it is 500,000 or 500,000, then it does not change when the baby is delivered.
According to the Children's Act, a mother is the one who gives birth to a child. The same act provides that parental responsibility belongs to both parents. However, religious leaders have argued that surrogacy is a severe violation of human dignity and contrary to the unity of marriage, as children are gifts with their own inherent dignity.
It is immoral. It is a sin. For it is contrary to the unity of marriage and to the dignity of the procreation of the human person.
Bibi na bwana wakawa wenye kubaliana, ikawa kwamba hawawezi kupata mimba na mmoja akashika mimba. Yaani huyu mama ikachukuliwa ya mwanaume na ikachukuliwa ikawekwa kwa huyu ambaye kwamba ni bibi yake, kwa hivyo hiyo inaweza kubalika, lakini ya third party kwa Uislamu hiyo inakuwa ni haramu.
Even as Leah opts to become a surrogate, she is alive to the fact that currently the laws and regulations regarding the procedures aren't very clear, and that can be a problem for both donors and surrogates.
The bill is not clear about the naming of the kid. Once I give birth, the kid is supposed to be named. The biological mom is supposed to be me. The mom, who is supposed to be the biological mom, gets the kid through adoption. So the bill needs to be clear for me. Once I carry the kid, by the time I'm giving birth, then the parents are supposed to name the kid.
Surrogacy, which for decades have been practiced in some developed nations, has been viewed as an option for couples who cannot naturally have babies, and is gradually gaining currency in Kenya as the procedure is undertaken to help women who cannot conceive either due to absence of a uterus or other complications.
I have about 5 women who would actually love to be surrogates. In other centers, especially for our partners we work with in Nairobi, we realize that this happens a lot, and it's something that a number of Kenyans are beginning to embrace at the moment.
Nobody chooses not to have children. I'm sure for women who desire to have children, it would be sad if we are making money out of such a situation.
And I'll still do it again for whoever I'll have to do it for, as long as I'm willing to do it up until the level where I'm like, now I want, because I also want a family at some point. I just want to do it within some years.
Surrogacy is relatively new in Kenya, according to fertility doctors. However, the idea is controversial, but the question remains, how practical is the idea of surrogacy? Reporting for TV47 from Nakuru County, my name is Chichi Josephine.
To be my favorite gentlemen, it's always good to have them on sets because they are objective, much as they are aligned to certain parties, and they do not hide that, which is one thing I think is good because most of the people will pretend that they are not aligned to any side, but you can almost tell, based on their analysis. So outrightly, I know that Peter Mushende is a friend of the government, and it's good to have you, who's a governance expert. Thank you so much for creating time. Yes. I equally know very well that Eric Ragalo is a friend of Azimio, perhaps a member of ODM.
No, friend to Baba.
Baba, apana Azimio?
I'm not a friend to Azimio.
ODM?
I'm not a friend to ODM.
It's just Baba?
It's Baba.
So when Baba is out of the equation?
No, if Baba leaves ODM,
you are not...
ODM remains with the people who have it.
So what are you really? It's just that individual.
Baba is the party.
That's basically why I started by saying that these two gentlemen are so genuine, objective as well in their analysis, and that's basically it. Like someone states their position pretty well, and this is what they basically want. Eric Ragalo, you have had an interest of vying at some point. On what party?
I have vied twice on ODM.
Party? ODM.
Yeah.
So how do you say that you're a friend of Baba and not of the party?
Because Baba is in ODM.
And Baba is ODM, yes. And ODM is Baba.
If Baba would have gone with another party,
you'd have gone to that one.
Yes, so ODM does not hold me. It's Baba who holds me there.
So yesterday must have been that moment where you were so excited.
Yesterday.
Were you in town?
We shared with his group. We were. I could tell that they were not happy, because police they are the people who bring chaos in town.
Okay.
Did you see any shop burgled yesterday? No, there was no burgling. Did you see anybody akipigwa geta? Did you see mugging in town? And there were so many people along Wabera Street. Okay? There were so many people. Why didn't that happen? Because police are the ones who causes all this.
Sometimes some of this analysis inataka mtu aongee Kiswahili ndio kidogo ikuwe tamu.
Sababu askari ndio huleta hii mambo yote na kelele yote.
Peter Mushende.
There was no tear gas. So why do you baton people? Why do you tear gas them? They are walking from Kamukunji to town. Why are you throwing tear gas to them?
Hujawahi kupoteza simu saa ile uko kwa hiyo moment?
Simu iliyoipotea.
Sasa.
Nokia. N30 what?
Kwa sababu ya askari, ilipotea kwa sababu ya askari.
N30 something. Ilipotea sababu ya askari.
Sure.
Yes, because kama askari hawakuwa wakati wa kukimbia na rabsha, ile simu ningekuwa nayo. Waona? So nikienda maandamano huwa na make sure navaa track zipped. Hizi siku hizi zipped. So uko zipped mpaka hii ya nyuma zipped. Uko zipped kabisa.
Kesho utakuwa?
Linda. Unaniuliza swali
ama jibu?
Ama unaniuliza kama utaamka salama? Bora nitakuwa napumua. Nitakuwa.
Utakuwa.
Bora na askari nawaomba. Hii tax inawafinya. Hii nyumba utajengea watu, wewe utashinda hapo na hiyo rifle yako na tear gas canister, utaikosa. Hii maisha inakufinya. Ukitupiga tear gas, unajua unapiga tear gas watu wenye wanasema wanataka kupunguza maisha ya watu.
I hope umeona warning ya Kindiki Kithure vizuri.
Kawaida yake.
Si kawaida yake.
Kawaida yake.
Watu wakauliza ako wapi Malala ashike.
Anaona mpaka watu wa kanisa atawafanyia nini? Atawafanyia nini watu wa kanisa? Nilisikia kiroho.
Unajua, mimi husema mara kadha nimesema hapa ya kwamba mheshimiwa aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga wakati ana nidhamu hamna mtu atamuuliza
swali.
Unafikiria kwamba vitengo vya ulinzi havikuwa vinajua yeye ameingia matatu kale?
Lazima walijua.
Kwanza alikuwa live.
Lazima walijua.
Kitambo watoke kule kale na fike town. Ilikuwa vitengo vya uchunguzi zilikuwa sajua kwa barabara akikam. And if he behaves, nobody has interest of having an altercation with the Honorable Raila Odinga. The only thing he did not make, he tried to copy what Kizza Besigye once did in Uganda, and it did not work. He was hoping to be stopped because what Kizza Besigye did in Uganda was try to walk, and he knew Museveni would restrain him into some kind of house arrest. And of course that built his profile. Unfortunately for us here in Kenya, we are a democracy. If Baba decides that I will not chest them myself, I'll just wake up one morning and hop into a matatu. Do you just imagine? He was moving, he went to a shoe shiner, got the shoe made. I mean, it is not that the security apparatus did not know the Baba was roaming. No,
Eric, we take a short break. Hold it.
Yeah, so what I am saying is, as long as Raila Odinga behaves, Kenya is equally his as is equally mine, and he will be treated with respect if he comes in respect. Yesterday, I have to say that I have not seen His Excellency the Prime Minister behave well like he behaved yesterday.
Is it? All right, let's open that debate officially after this short break, gentlemen. After this short break. Here we are, and we are back with the gentleman. It is about Raila's surprise visit in the city. It wasn't even a visit. It was just a surprise move, basically, all the way from Karen into the city. And there's so much as well to discuss this morning. But before we get to the other matters, allow us to briefly as well, unpack this. It's quite an interesting occurrence yesterday, and historic, so to speak, much as Mushendu would look at it differently. So here we are. Why do you argue that Mushendu's argument does not hold water? And that he argues that for the very first time he saw Baba. Well, what?
The only problem, the only problem I have with Mushendu is at his age, Baba, he will call Baba his father.
Yes.
And actually, close to be his grandfather.
I've said close to be. Not.
The English,
okay.
Close to be.
Okay.
Close to be.
Not close.
No. So, and for his age to say Baba behaved or misbehaved, I'm wondering when Baba calls people to Kamukunji, and the police also, let me use the same word, misbehaves, has Baba misbehaved? When we were in Kamukunji, it was very easy. From here, we are moving to town. We will finish our what? It's called, when you picket, our picketing to town, because there's nothing, we were peaceful picketing to town. Then from town we disembark. Why were the police blocking people? Were they told we were going to break into Central Bank?
Now you're talking about the demos last week.
There was no demos.
What was
the right thing is that there were no demos.
Okay.
There was a meeting in town, then we move, we disembark in town. There were no demos.
Why in town? Where does it happen?
You can actually move to anywhere.
Yes, that is yes.
And what I want to tell the government, the day you block Nairobi, we will make it there. We made it when you were away, when we took Baba from JKIA, and we took 6 hours to town, from 11 to 4 p.m. We entered Nairobi. Kome was then PPO. We could see what he was doing. So we entered Nairobi. So the thing is very simple. When we say tomorrow we are having another meeting, just give us security. Give us security. And I want to show you why it was peaceful. When people were leaving Kibera to town, they drove on top of vehicles and they were walking on the street headed to Kamukunji. Did they break anybody's anything as they were moving to Kamukunji? And these were Kibera people, na watu wanasema watu wa Kibera wanapenda kuvunja vitu. Mushendu, watu walitoka Kibera. Uliona? Wakiteremka Kamukunji. Waliharibu nini? Why did the police interestingly, why did the police leave them to go to Kibera? To Kamukunji walking without having destroyed anything? So if police block them and throw tear gas, then what do you expect from people?
You see, it's quite a concern.
So to me, police being misused, and the police must understand they are not blocked from this thing.
How can you say
NHIF watalipa? NSSF watalipa.
They're well aware about that.
Yes. So that police, kama ni hasira anataka kuturushia nao tear gas, arusha because ana hasira. Lakini mimi nikitembea to town, mbona nipigwe?
Eric, when Eric says that they're being misused, then you ask yourself, by who? We all listened to the CS for Interior as well, saying that those ones that are going extreme, I mean, they will also make sure that, this is considered and, the law will take its course.
So let me ask you,
so that's
we are living that, from Kamukunji, there's that kabarabara, inaenda kutokea wapi? Pale Juakali. You know it, that kabarabara moja, inaenda kutokea Juakali. The question I want to ask, how extreme was extreme when you block that barabara that attaches Kamukunji with the Landis Road? Let me ask, how extreme was that extreme? You put the lorry blocking this way, then police on this side, throwing tear gas, to people. So you want Raila to sleep in Kamukunji, not leave Kamukunji.
We discussed that yesterday.
Unataka alale kwa kiwanja, asitoke kwa kiwanja? Ama ulikuwa unataka atoke wapi?
Let's ask Mushendo that. The blockages, the tight, approach by the police, that's, to some extent. What will it take for us to create a balance on this? And yes. I know there's a bill in Parliament that speaks to how perhaps we need to behave during the times of demos. That clearly then tells you we have not managed our demonstrations as should be. What will it take for us to get it right? Because losing lives, having some of us also being in hospital today just because of the demo, some of them were not even part of the demonstrations, is quite, a concern. And that acknowledgement by the CS of Interior that equally on their side, they have failed at some point, is worrying. So, and tomorrow we are staring at another. So how do we approach this?
You see, you have to look at these demonstrations from their conception. What is the intention? You have had, and I think one time sitting here, we played a clip of Raila Odinga saying that they are going to bring Nairobi to a standstill. Yeah. They are going to paralyze operations in Nairobi. Words of the Prime Minister. You see, if it's about the legality of picketing, picketing is something that is allowed by our democracy. It is a right that is enshrined in the Constitution. But picketing must also not invade on the right of that person called Mushendo who does not want to picket, because the Constitution is very clear that your right goes as far as where my right begins. Now, the problem, I would say that yes, it is true. Our security apparatus will need to up their games as far as controlling picketing and demonstrations and all those things. Yeah. But this is the truth, that most of those people who come to picket come with an intention of causing havoc to the city and making sure that things in the city do not move, because they so believe that that is the only way they can be heard. But for the words of His Excellency, the Deputy President, who has persistently said, if Azimio and Raila Odinga want to come and picket in Nairobi and picket and do it in peace, then there is nobody stopping them from doing so. And yesterday was one of those places. Let me tell you, the problem with those people who were with Baba yesterday in the morning, they started tweeting and going live and chats way before we saw Baba live on the road. In fact, the plan for Baba to walk was mooted last week. Right. I attended a graduation of one of the diehard supporters of Baba, and I knew from that day that there is something that is being cooked for Monday. But you see, Raila chose to use a public means to come to town, and the government respects the sanctity of the Kenyan public, and they could not, he is a Kenyan like I am. He has rights as a Kenyan just like I do. Probably because he is a leader in this country, needs to be given much more way as a leader. He came to town, alitumia mat, came all the way to town, moved from Shushaina into a restaurant in town and everything, and then came to address the people. I will tell you this outrightly, that you can argue that the government is not aware of the happenings 100% in the country, but there is one place they can never go wrong.
At that Baba left
at
his
the
car
capital.
And got...
Baba left his car and got into a matatu, to a boda, and then he was even live, and it will take you about 30 minutes from Karen to come to town. If there was actually any intention to stop Baba from being in the city, it would have been executed. But you see, yesterday he chose to use the most civil way to actually drive his agenda. And when you are civil and you are well-behaved and well-mannered, there is no reason for police to come actually and stop what is it that you want to do in the city.
Claims of assassination that perhaps
they are neither here nor there.
They're neither here or there.
They are neither here nor there. I mean, the first time Raila Odinga claimed he was to be assassinated was 1982. I was not even born. So when Raila Odinga talks about assassination, such crimes should be treated with the contempt they deserve. Raila Odinga has been in the limelight of this the politics of this nation for a very long. If somebody wanted him out of the space, probably that ought to have happened a long time ago.
Is it that he's untouchable, or
no,
it is that perhaps there's no one who really wants him out?
You realize not single time you have ever had me address him on this platform without addressing him with his title of the Prime Minister. Because he is a leader in this country. It is not that he is not touchable. He is a leader, and he is given and accorded the space that any other leader in this country must be accorded. The only discontent is that when, and this is a problem, there is no single time, other than yesterday, I want you to indulge me. One time, Raila Odinga was able to address the political gathering in the city without people having vandalizing business, without who was
that is why Eric says
was
that
taken.
Goes,
and therefore,
yeah.
What he did yesterday, I wish that is the same approach he can approach issues without the diehards. I would wish that more people who are more balanced like Karagaro would make the part of that demonstration, because I am sure that if Ragaro passes by one of the streets in Nairobi where I have a business, he would make sure that those he is demonstrating with do not invade. He will make sure of it.
Yeah.
I tell you, other than just politics, I can tell you so many other things Ragaro is doing that are not related with the world of politics.
Yes.
What we are saying, and I agree with Ragaro, is that our police force must be, what do you call it? They must be restrained.
Have civility.
No, it's not about civility, Nani. Ragaro, let me tell you, all of us we go through stress at some point. And at some point, we look for people to talk to be able to strike that balance.
Let out.
You know, there's something, I know they have had the Kiambu women, the Honorable Wamuratha, talk about the mental stability.
Right.
That mental stability is not just with Kenyans who do not have jobs. It is also with the civil servants who are working probably under strained conditions, or they are going through issues. So I think our security apparatus must exercise what is called self-restraint. And equally, those that are demonstrating, supported by Kinaragaro, must behave the same way they behaved yesterday. And I promise them, as long as they behave, nobody is going to be trigger happy to actually disperse them. Yesterday they did an awesome, you know, if you look at that
clip and the address,
Raila Odinga, you are almost convinced that that is not Raila Odinga. Addressing the people in the city without commotion.
I wish to tell the police that, and I'm actually talking to the junior police who are misused, that the treasury bills are above 12%. That means you will take a loan with a higher interest rate, like it or not. So you are not immune to the suffering of Kenyans. But of course, you are trained to have that thing that people fear most, which is the gun. But that does not make you not have to suffer when the dollar is at 141.
Are you telling them to join in the demonstration?
I'm addressing them.
Telling
Let me
them
just
not
finish.
to do their duty and join in the demonstration.
What I'm addressing them to is that the dollar is at 141.
That's for sure.
You are not immune from the dollar being at 141. The supermarket sugar is actually at 450 and above.
Eric.
What I'm trying to tell the police is your salary is lower.
Eric,
and I'm being honest with them. Your salary is so low that some of us who are picketing, listen, I'm addressing them. Your salary is very low than some of us who are picketing. And you're coming to beat us, and you're trying to make life easier even for you.
Wait a minute,
so,
Eric.
by the time you take that gun and throw us that tear gas, think of your school fee for your kid.
Blackmail.
I'm just telling him your school fee for your kid.
I was gonna say, there is a very thin line between faulting the police for probably not exercising self-restraint.
And wait a minute,
Yes.
this we're not going to treat in isolation, gentlemen. You've had Peter Moshendo speaking to the fact that there have been demos before.
Yes.
All these other demos that were there before were not all about food and
the question
all that.
is,
There are a couple of times we've had demos on
my
other
question
things.
is, when you block Raila from Kamukunji, and I'm asking them, did you want him to sleep in the stadium? So you didn't want him to leave the stadium. And what happens when Raila moves out of anywhere?
Right.
People zindikisha him. It's natural. If that does not happen to your leader, who just leaves and people are okay when he leaves, wanamsimama hivi. As we live with Baba, and we ensure Baba is safe, ndio ameenda. If that is not what you people do, we will do it. So if you are blocking us to
If the police service is there to protect Baba for you, why is it that you find it necessary to protect him?
So why are they blocking Baba to move from the ground?
Who said they were blocking?
They were blocking. What was that?
Let me tell you, the problem with my friend
my
here.
My question was, why were they blocking with the lorry? What was the lorry doing there?
The problem with my friend here, Lagaro, there is a very thin line between being passionate about someone and approaching issues in a certain level of sycophancy, if I would say. And I say, I treat Raila Odinga with utmost respect of any leader, and that should be given. And that is why I keep saying that my English teacher was a Briton trained. And I can only address His Excellency the Prime Minister as the Prime Minister, despite the fact that he is no longer in service as the Prime Minister. He is a leader in this country. He must be respected. He must be given his space. But equally, he must also respect the biggest and the most supreme document in this country, which is the Constitution, by the way, which he had given a lot of his adult life fighting for.
And most of the times when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is making a step, he has looked into the Constitution. Sometimes he actually helps us or helps.
But you know, let me tell you, we give ourselves this supreme document that, number one, prescribes how we must administer the rights of Kenyans.
Yeah.
You see, these people keep going to Kamukunji. Kamukunji is one of the biggest juakari space in the Republic of Kenya.
That's true.
And it has employed so many Kenyans in what we call informal employment. These people, every time they want to, that is the feeling I have, and that is the distaste I have with these people. Every time they want to go and make a point, they want to go to Kamukunji. And they want to go and disrupt the businesses of the small people.
But we also know how historic that's been.
Let's agree that you cannot do something the same way all the time and expect a different result. That every time you want to make a statement, why don't they go and make a statement in
out of Kamukunji, you've seen lots of changes in the country.
Listen. Linda. Let me finish, Rigaro. You will have your rebuttal. Gone are the days when Kamukunji actually liberated this country. Actually, immediately after the second liberation, every other person who tries to copy Sabasaba, it is actually remains as just a copy paste. And I say this with utmost respect to the likes of Raila Odinga, James Orengo, Paul Moite, George Nyanja, Nasemo Chuodo, all these Nini, Joya, Betty Kadhangu, all those people who actually made Kamukunji what we know it to be here today. And what we must say is this, that Ragaro, you do not have to make a point by breaking the same rule your so-called Baba worked his entire adult life to bring, because you cannot invade on the rights of people, claiming that you are fighting for the rights of other people. You must be able to strike a balance.
We go to demonstrate once in so many years, or once in 2 years.
Not until you introduced weekly demos.
So the question is,
if it's a career.
Well, the question is, if we are disrupting, we disrupt one day. If we are. When Ruto disrupt our pocket, he disrupt it every day for 5 years. So we are disrupting for one day. But Ruto has disrupted our pocket.
Is it
right now, he has disrupted our pocket for every day for 5 years.
So what is the guarantee that the demos are going to change?
By how? By how? Bringing us a finance bill that is out of constitution.
If there's a legal approach to this that has been...
If there is constitutionality, let's talk about constitution.
Okay.
How did the finance bill come about? It is out of constitution. Because who voted the finance bill? Okay? And how is parliament made right now?
Yeah.
Is parliament made, which group of parliament worked on the finance bill? As parliament constituted right now, how is it? And that's why people are in court. Akina Ndegwa, my friend, the lawyer, they're in court to get interpretation on the constitution on this. Okay? If Ruto is not disrupting our pocket, how did the bill come, which is, the budget? The budget did not tell us where he's going to get the money, did not tell us the balance as the money was, as in how that the budget under the constitution as it is supposed to be read, how is it?
We have representatives.
You know, Rinda.
You have your time also.
No, but you know, Ragaro, if you open that canon of worms as to how the budget was made, then you must not look at that camera and lie to the people. I can tell you, the budget statements were first tabled in Parliament in February. Because that is an elaborate process in the Constitution.
Let me tell you.
Proceed.
So if you talk of Raila disrupting people one day, I'm asking, how has Ruto disrupted us now? Why are the treasury bills at 12%, Moshendo? Why is the dollar going?
Eric Ragolo, you have a point. But then the question is this.
Why are we not able to handle why are we not able to handle petrol? Let me finish this. Petrol was supposed to come from Middle East, and we are supposed to do shilling to shilling trade. I mean, like we can buy petrol with the shilling. Petrol is petrodollar, it can never change. Then, here now, we cannot continue. Now we are looking for another person to sell petrol.
Eric Ragalo.
And we are having Iran guy coming to Kenya, the president, so that you can have another deal of petrol with Iran.
Listen to this,
The question is, why are you disrupting our pocket? While Moshendo is telling us we disrupt business.
Eric Ragalo, Moshendo here is a Kenyan.
Who has disrupted business more than Ruto right now, when you cannot even stabilize economy of...
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Ragaro must be very honest. One, you cannot claim that Ruto is disrupting business when his first finance bill is a subject of discussion in the courts. And as we are talking now, it is not implementable.
Right.
This is the thing. When the new governor of CBK got in the other day, we only raised the interest rate with 0.5%. And this is to stabilize the Kenya shillings. When he talks about the issues of budget, Rinda, one of the most elaborate processes that was provided by the new constitution is the process of budget making in this country.
Yeah.
The budget estimates were first tabled in Parliament in February, and we discussed with you the other day here. And they have gone through the rigorous process with the people, and I will tell him, the budget committee consists members of Azimio there is no single budget policy that has been brought in Parliament that is not unanimous, and I challenge him to take the Hansard, the parliamentary Hansard of the Republic. From the process, when we started the process of making the budget in February, every single report that has been tabled by both either Kiharo Member of Parliament, Dedi Nyoro, or the Moro Member of Parliament, Kuria, who is the chair of Finance Committee, every single document that they have brought on Parliament from the committee has been unanimous. The Committee on Budget has 7 members of Azimio. The Committee on Finance, I think, has 6 members of Azimio. These people have brought an unanimous report from the committee, meaning that the process has been overboard. The constitution of the committees has both sides, pro-government and those in Azimio. So let Ragaro, and I will repeat this, we may argue on the quality of the final product. That we can argue, whether it was the best quality or something. But as to the process of making the budget,
which I think Kagalo began by...
Yes, it has been above board. It has followed to the letter every process provided for in our legislative mechanism.
Give me space to rebut. The court said you don't go ahead and implement the finance bill. What has happened to our fuel
act? Well, and that as well is debated.
So that's why I'm saying,
That's
why I'm saying they are raiding our pocket. So if Raila is hurting the economy because of one day, someone is hurting our pocket daily.
I had Professor Fred Ogola. Let me just say this. I had Professor Ogola here, who as well is a petitioner in relation to this, alongside the Okiya Omtatas today. And he says that, well, on the 16%, they are yet to understand why EPRA took that direction.
Yes.
Because they have not declared as to whether they took that direction on basis of what the finance bill declares.
But we are in the government. If that is the government that you cannot follow the courts, they raid our pocket, then Raila just doing a demonstration one day, Mushendo is on top of the roof, while someone is raiding our pocket every day for 5 years.
If Okiya Omtata, if senior counsel Otiende Amolo is as well in court in relation to that, these are representatives, or Otiende Amolo is a representative of Azimio. Why would you not wait for this process of the court? Why do you have to hit the streets, looking at your supporters also losing their lives, looking at Kenyans losing their lives on the basis of this?
It is the people. First, Constitution, Article 1. The people
It
can
is
also demand.
I agree.
They are demanding.
I agree.
As much as the court issues continue, we also demand.
But
why are they doing this?
Is leadership an aspect of considering
I was rebutting, and this guy is going to come in.
Proceed.
The second one, Parliament. Why I'm saying about Parliament not well constituted. On law and on paper, which is on law, and that is the Constitution is keeping to talk about. Who is the leader who is majority in Parliament? It is Azimio. Who is minority in Parliament?
Are we going to begin that?
So I'm just bringing this.
We cannot have that argument.
Let me finish my...
Let's allow him. He's
I may not be as bright like you in this thing, because you are governance expert. Me, I'm a political analyst too, but I have to tell you this. The leader of who is the majority in Parliament? It's Azimio, according to the Constitution on paper.
Okay.
So how did the Parliament got constituted the way it was constituted? It was raided. That's what I'm saying. Raiding has always gone ahead. So when it was raided, when we bring a bill in Parliament, or rather the what now we are calling the document, budget.
Yeah.
So who formulated the budget in Parliament? Ilipitishwa na kina nani? By the majority or minority? The minority created a budget for Kenya, which was the government.
Did they?
Yes. Because they are the minority.
Linda, with all honesty, you cannot allow Ragaro to actually lie to Kenyans.
It is true.
No, listen.
So how did you become majority?
Now, you listen. Can I tell you?
To him,
a budget, any budget of any country is a production of the ruling coalition. Assume for a moment,
which is a minority.
Assume for a moment that we do not even know who is the majority in Parliament. Just assume we don't know who is the majority in Parliament. The people who must bring the budget policy in Parliament is government. It is the ruling coalition. When that budget is brought in Parliament and it is taken through the process, it goes to what we call committees and what have you, and eventually for it to become law and to become appropriation act, Linda, it has to be voted in by members of Parliament. And that voting does not happen because of this political party or this political party. The people who vote for this particular law in Parliament are only recognized in the Constitution not because of their political parties. It is because of the power we have given them in the Article 1 of the Constitution that says that the supreme authority of the Constitution is vested on the people, and people may exercise it directly or indirectly. In this case, I, Mushendo, exercise my right in the Constitution indirectly by electing Engineer John Kirago Shege to represent Limuru constituency, because not all the 103 125,000 members of Limuru constituency can fit in that bunge. And therefore, Engineer Kirago Shege, having been given mandate by the Limuru people, will exercise that right on our behalf and go either vote for the bill or vote against the bill, because we have given him that authority. Now, when he is trying to say that the budget was not constitutionally passed, the truth of the matter is that the final Appropriation Act that has been ascended to by His Excellency the President a while ago, it is a product of Parliament, and Parliament is a product of the people who have elected members. So let him not actually come and talk about the legality of the products that come out of the House, because such important matters as the budget, the Finance Act, and other things, they are provided for by the standing orders of Parliament, where every member who is elected is accorded the right to post. Now, the other issue when he's talking about coalitions, please, Lagaro, do not insult the intelligence of Kenyans. The Political Parties Act amendment, you forced them into our throats just before a few weeks to the elections. You remember, Linda, we have discussed that way too much. They forced those amendment into our throats, thinking that it would help them because they were very convinced that they are going to form government. Oh, and to them, they did not form government, but they passed laws that allows the processes of what we call coalition making, and they gave new roles. It is the President Kenyatta, who was the champion of Raila Odinga, who ascended into the Political Parties Act amendments, and they became part of our laws. So you remember when the Honorable James Orengo said that you make laws today thinking that you are going to hurt Ragaro and tomorrow they will hurt you. Those very laws that you made on coalitions, Ragaro, are the very laws that has been used to actually determine who is the majority in Parliament. And it is unfortunate that we enjoy using those laws that we were not supporting, but you supported them thinking that you make government and you are trying to secure yourself, so that when you take power, you can consolidate it. Unfortunately, you did not make power. So if the laws are going against you, don't complain. You force them down our throat. You remember one day we had a show with you and you told me those laws will pass.
Linda,
passed.
That's why we are in court.
Right.
Because, of course, he's talked about
so you are in court and at the same time you're in the streets, which is fair.
You cannot have your cake and eat it.
Proceed.
That's why we are in court through Akina Ndegwa, because Ndegwa went to court. I follow my brother Ndegwa very closely. Ndegwa went for the interpretation of that in Parliament.
Or perhaps
what happened in Parliament.
He is representing them. Yes.
And the question is, if there is a leader of committees that he's talking about, those leaders of committee, how did they become leaders? Are they leaders of committee leading the minority or leading the majority? So we are waiting for the courts to give us the interpretation. But the question is, if the leaders in Parliament, in Parliament committee and the leaders of minority, so was the budget passed by minority?
This is the argument.
You know,
this is the argument, and that's the reason why the
with all honesty, in respect to the intelligence of Kenyans who are watching us, we cannot argue. You know what I'm telling you? An Appropriation Act is not a product of whether it is minority or majority. Ragaro. It is a bill that was put into a vote, individual vote. It was not on party lines.
And clause by clause.
Cross by cross, it was individual votes by members of Parliament elected
whether
by
they
the
are
people.
aligned to this side or not.
And therefore, well, you can argue about who is the leader of majority or not. Any products of Parliament that is out of a vote cannot be quitted into the competition on who is majority and who is minority.
The process of making ugali does not make ugali not become ugali. It can be a crude process. By the end of the day, you have the ugali. So tomorrow, do you want us to continue the same process of making ugali?
So the whole idea is
ugali.
what the future holds,
eat this ugali now. That's what I'm telling my friend here.
And that is fair.
Again, Linda.
Listen, let me finish.
They are newfound.
Why are you not letting me finish?
There were newfound friendship between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta then.
Why are you cutting my thought process?
It is also the same process that produced a new standing order in Parliament.
Don't cut my process.
Let
me finish my thought process.
All right.
My thought process was, you can use very dirty water, a stick but not inaitangwa nini na Kiingereza? Mwiko. Okay? But you'll still make ugali. And people will eat it, though. Do you want to tell me tomorrow you'll make the same ugali the same way to
your argument is that we actually need to address some of these matters so that in future we do not get into spaces that are murky as it is.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Exactly. That's
Fair
what I'm telling you.
Don't
tell people.
Let me tell you. You see, when you see people like Wakili Ndegwa going to court, it is just for publicity stunts, because the very people who are affected by what Ragaro is trying to argue here are the members of parliament that are already in Bunge. The leader of minority has already gladly taken his position in Bunge because he and other members of Azimio in the House understands how the standing orders works. And they have, if it is them who have instructed Degwa to go to court, then it is unfortunate because that decision of the majority was made almost a year ago now. And that decision was not challenged by anybody, other than the likes of Degwa who do it for the purposes of being noticed. And I say that with tremendous...
Degwa is representing some...
He's not representing anybody.
He's part of the petition.
He's not ask him. He's not representing anybody. He's here. I've looked at the petition. He's not doing it on behalf of anybody. He's doing it on his capacity
but as an advocate.
An advocate. But you see, if those in Azimio who are in parliament have not seen it right, because you see what happens with the National Assembly and Senate, if they feel there is a matter that does not have right, we have seen Senate go to the High Court for interpretation of a number of laws, especially to issues related with money bills and what have you. So what I am saying is this. When you hear Regaro talk about that Kenyans are being raided, I'm telling him we were sitting and we agreed on TV watching Kenyan MPs vote for the finance bill. And I will tell him the crack that was presiding over the voting of the finance bill was not calling Eric Ragaro ODM or John Bogwa NAK Kenya. He was calling, he would sit there and he would say, Kirago Shege, Engineer Kirago Shege, Limuru constituency. How do you vote? They would call an MP from Kisumu, Gem. You wake up and you vote. Now, the argument that Ragaro and friends have continued to peddle that parliament has been captured because that is the argument, it does not hold water because Raila Odinga and his cahoots cannot argue that they are fighting for democracy on one side and fail to recognize democracy on the other end. I told you the last time I was here, governments are formed by political parties. Our constitution is very clear in terms of how to run for office in this country, Linda. You can choose to run for office sponsored by a political party. You can choose to run for office when you are an independent candidate. Now, I'll give you an example. My friend Joroge Kururia is an independent member of parliament for Gatundu North. My friend Engineer Kirago Sege, MP for Limuru, is a sponsored candidate of Kenya Kwanza administration. And when you run on a political party, it means that you identify with the ideologies that are propagated by that political parties, and therefore there is no wrongdoing in you supporting the agenda of that political party when it comes to parliament. As an independent candidate, when you are in parliament, you have an open mind that you can actually critique either the policies of government or the policies of the opposition parties and what have you.
Right.
And when an agenda of government is brought in parliament, Rinda, it is the responsibility of that government to drum support for that agenda.
Which is what the government did.
And unfortunately, those are the traits of our democracy in this country.
I want to ask just a question.
Ours is a presidential system.
I want to ask Moshe,
and that is how it operates.
I want to ask Moshe,
and as we close on this one,
because you said Raila has misbehaved, and he who misbehaves on law is taken to court.
That is before.
And, yes, but Raila.
That is why I started by
asking
I'm
asking Moshe
untouchable.
Who is going to arrest Raila? Everyone is saying we are going to arrest Raila. We've seen in Meru yesterday, everyone want to arrest Raila. Who is going to put the noose on the neck of Baba? Who is going to arrest Raila?
That is all I'm asking. The problem with opposition is that you have been looking for that bait.
No, but you people
keep
saying,
hold your horse. Let me finish.
Are you saying that Baba is untouchable?
I want to give.
Even when he goes against the law,
quote someone who
if
said,
he would.
It will not happen again. That was Osoro. The next day, Malala said, it is enough, is enough.
Is he untouchable? Is it time that as a country we have this conversation on how? Let me ask this question. Is it time that as a country we have this question or address this question on how we need to deal with the untouchables? Because from what I hear...
it's not untouchable. The issue is, it's not that Raila is untouchable.
It is.
It's the way they're playing politics that they need to arrest him. So
I'll tell you.
Who have you sent?
One of the reasons why if you are hoping for an arrest of Raila, you will not see it.
But why do you want to arrest him?
No, you can't answer the question and not allow me the opportunity.
Proceed, Mushendu, as we close on this one.
Yes, the reason why you will never see an Raila arrest today, it is because of not Raila as an individual. We respect the over 6 point something million people
8 million.
who vote. I don't know.
Well, based on the election, yes.
Unless that 8 million is a legal quotable number, I can never quote it. The over 6 point something million people who voted for Raila, we respect them and we respect their sanctity to actually exercise their democratic right. And this is the thing. The opposition and Azimio have been doing this intentionally to have Raila Odinga caught. And unfortunately, we cannot do that and actually give you what you want to be able to cause anarchy in this country. So we will allow them there to roam around.
But let's give it to him
and enjoy his yes. No.
He has done that.
We will allow. We are going to allow Raila Odinga to roam around and enjoy his wee hours of his political career in peace. I mean, who is interested in electing?
Gentlemen.
Who is interested?
The attackers to stop this narrative we will arrest him.
No.
Well, fair enough.
We are waiting for that.
Fair enough.
How does it help Kenya by arresting a
70-something-year-old? We're not going to go there.
How does it help Kenya to keep threatening Baba?
Look here, Eric.
Let us arrest him.
Let us shelve that one. We had invited our Kili here. So
nobody is going to arrest Raila.
We had invited a lawyer to speak to the Finance Act, but let's just wait and see what plays out at the level and the bench that is going to be formed. CJ, Kenyans are eagerly waiting because this is a matter.
What I will tell people, those who I see, like some of the papers been shouting, paying of taxes and levies is a provision of our constitution, direct provision of our constitution. And our constitution envisions that there is no vacuum when it comes to payment of taxes. Now, what the courts have done, they have said that you cannot implement the new tax laws because finance, in essence, what finance bill leader does is to amend quite a number of our statutes, acts, like right now, if the housing levy, we are amending the Housing Act, in the VAT, the finance bill amends the VAT Act and what have you. So what happens in the absence of the 2023 finance bill, the status quo
remains. So
the
there's
status
no
quo
vacuum.
remains.
That's
So there is no
vacuum
in
Right.
payment of tax.
Right.
And I am glad that the government of Kenya Kwanza has observed the court injunctions of Finance Act 2023.
You want to
And I'll
argue
tell you,
the
and I'll tell you, and I'll
fuel?
tell you,
The
and
fuel.
Yes.
You see the people who have gone to court to sort for conservatory orders.
Yes.
They were again in court yesterday, and I'll tell you why no single one of them, including Okia Mtata and the rest, has gone to challenge EPRA on the issue of the VAT on fuel. Because
They have raised that.
Yes, because let me tell you, Lagaro, I'll teach you
proceed,
something about how we buy our fuel from our depot. Immediately, the EPRA raised the cost of buying fuel. Immediately, our depots, the one in Mombasa, the one in Nairobi, the one in LD, the one in Nanyuki, they immediately started selling fuel to those who are buying at that price.
Yes, I understand.
Now, it would disadvantage Kenyans who line up in Embakasi, if you have been to the depot, who have bought fuel on the new cost, and then tomorrow you want to go to court and ask EPRA to either. So it is the reason why even those who have gone to court to sort the interpretation of the finance bill, amongst all the conservatory orders they have sought so far, including some that were filed on Friday, nobody has filed a request for conservatory orders to stop EPRA from exercising the VAT 16%, because this is what the constitutionalism will interpret, that it would be an action that has been overtaken by events.
And of course,
But
we're seeking to see.
the question is, why then did they go there? Or did they just want to? That's why.
And that is why, at the level of the court, they are supposed to explain
that's why.
why.
Yeah, that's why the court
direction.
wanted them to explain. Why did they go there, even knowing that the conservatory has been given a day before or some hours before?
Hence,
that
what
happened.
I told you.
So do they want to raid? I keep on saying.
But what then tells you it was based on the Finance Act that they took that
It was
direction?
based. So
Well, that can be challenged.
No, that one I will tell you outrightly. The raise was
not
triggered by that.
The raise of the bill. No. You see.
Was as a result of that.
Lagaro, I went to school and my English teacher is very good at my language. It was as
a result of that.
As a result of
then
the
it's contempt
VAT
of court.
Act.
You agree?
It was because naturally a raise by EPRA, that is a normal review, is done on 14th.
On 14th.
On
Yes.
14th. That is the truth.
Yes.
What I am telling Lagaro is that immediately that
one cannot come
that is
down.
contempt.
That one I understand.
Yes.
So it was contempt of court. Yes.
No, it is not contempt of court.
It was before.
You see,
before the time.
The moment EPRA gives new prices, they take effect immediately.
Yes.
That is those tracks of lorries you see here in Embakasi.
So
if kama ulikuwa kwa line and you had not made your purchase, probably you are waiting to purchase. There are those who are in line waiting to actually refill after they have purchased. Those who had not purchased, they immediately started purchasing that fuel on that. In fact, I think the Kenya Pipeline is on record saying how much fuel was bought between that 12 p.m. because the EPRA raise was done on 12 p.m. The conservatory orders.
What happens? What happens to the interest of the people in the Constitution?
So the issue is, let me just say, the judiciary gave conservatory orders on 31st.
The actual day.
During the day.
Yes.
Not at night.
Yes.
So let me give an example. Actually, it was 31st some chana, 3 p.m. up to 12 midnight. Maybe earlier. 12 midnight. How many hours are this? So was it contempt on all these hours?
Hence, is, and I'm telling you, that is why it could have been good. Gentlemen,
yes.
That is why it could have been good for us to have a legal mind. And I will repeat, while we all agree that this was done based on this Finance Act, I will tell you again, we have Professor who was here yesterday saying that as well he's a petitioner in relation to this and saying, you know what, then EPRA can go to court and argue that this was not based on the Finance Act. So let's wait and see what determination of the court would. We'll also wait and see and equally listen to what it is that they'll make as an argument in relation to this.
Before I forget one word, out of this and out of this totally, I disagree again with the president on trees. There is something called law of natural decay.
Yeah.
Law of natural decay. He is He's a plant scientist. He has done zoology.
I'm telling you, Mushendo is good at
Just-
that subject.
Yes,
You don't want to
done,
go there.
yes, he's done zoology all the way.
Yeah.
Plant decay is an ecosystem that assists us. Mushroom grows on decays. Some of these mushrooms are very important. He's good at it. I'm talking on the medical side and the beauty of natural decay.
Yeah.
Okay? Mushroom come from decay. Some of these mushrooms are very good in immunity. You understand? Of human being. And my question is, when the president make an announcement that trees are falling and decaying and people are sleeping hungry, is mushroom not food that come from natural decay that would feed people?
It is.
And here, the first lady is saying, let's protect Kakamega, and nobody comes in totally. So their natural decay will go on.
But on this other side.
But in Mole Bagon here, we
Where
don't want natural decay totally. Mbona si understanding hii watu?
Oshendo, you only have 1 minute
Yes,
to
I'll tell
respond
Agaro
to that.
Teach me, brother.
the world acceptable forest cover is at least 10% of a nation must be covered in forest cover. Out of the 10%, Kenya, we have not gone there, we are at 8.1%. Out of the 8.1%, 4% of those trees in the country are what you call exotic trees. Exotic trees are planted and they mature in a certain period of time. And if they do not get harvested at that time, their decay is not natural and cannot help our conservation. That's true, Ragaro, you must know. And therefore, they become useless if they are not harvested, and they are not useful to our ecosystem. And the natural law of foresting requires you to harvest them so that new trees can sprinkle and be part of our ecosystem. And that is what the Honorable Ruto has done. This has been the backbone of economies of Elbagon, Moro, and all those things. But I said it last year, there is a very thin line between uplifting that ban on forestry and allowing cartels to actually come and devour our natural and God-given nature. So what we must have is that, as the president is very right, and I will say, the reason why, Ragaro, you have so many furnitures from China that do not last for long, it is because we have not allowed our furniture or our timber economy to actually flourish by giving what is called the blanket condemnation of harvesting of trees. So this one is going to actually revitalize our timber economy. And we might now be the people exporting some of the best furnitures out there. So don't look at everything the president does, Ragaro, from a point of view psychophancy for Baba.
Not psychophancy. No,
sometimes look at some of the policies as policies meant to actually build our economy.
You know why Mushendo asked that?
Yes, sir.
When you were born, because you and me come from some ages.
Yes.
We used to eat makuno. They call it in Kikuyu.
Yes, makuno.
Please make us understand what makuno
is. It's a mushroom.
Oh, all right. Okay. That's what they're called,
And your mother, basically like my mother, would just go into a bush and come with the
We still eat them today, and they're very expensive.
So, law of natural decay still happen in Western. But in the Central region, I'm not being negative, makunos are never there because law of natural decay and what we call industrialization and movement
has
of
been
people
interfered with.
Interfered some of these things. So if we don't let nature of natural decay continue, we will lose our
we need to strike a balance.
What we must agree, and to some extent I agree with you, that let's then come up with a law that bans exotic trees from what we call national and community forests, so that we can protect our forest cover. Because as long as we continue planting exotic trees in national and community forest, we are going to continue having the issue with harvesting of trees
all the time.
All the time. So if we say that if there is any exotic tree in any natural community forest, be uprooted and we plant what we call indigenous tree and protect for a long time our forest cover, then that is a discussion we can have, and then allow private establishment to plant what is called exotic trees.
Fair enough. All right, gentlemen, you know, I like them because somehow they will always run the conversation, and there are a couple of things that we would have touched on today, but we haven't. We'll have about 10 minutes to speak about Jubilee. It is very, very important that I hear your view on Jubilee Party. You've been a member of Jubilee at any point?
Yes.
No,
well,
never. Interesting.
The way you are arguing like
no, never. I think I've said this 1 too many times.
Yes.
On the parties that I've been. Even today, I can tell you.
He could have been a friend.
Like right now, I can tell you I'm partyless.
Yes. He's been a friend, but he's not been a member. All right, so gentlemen, we take a quick short break and then we come back, speak to that. There's someone here who sent a message, and you rarely get these messages. Mmetuingilia sana, sisi kama polisi yaki. We are only performing our duties to protect life and property.
Which life?
Anyway, it's a good interview. Thank you so much. We take a short break and then we come back in 10 minutes, get to hear what the gentlemen have to say about Jubilee, because today it's Jubilee, tomorrow is ODM, tomorrow is Azimio or any other coalition or party. After this break. Gentlemen, we are back. This should be the last laps, and then shortly we'll also be crossing over to Kakamega County. Our very own Violet Auma is on standby. With the people of Kakamega, we also want to hear what they have to say about the events that are shaping in the country. So before we go to Vio in the next about 10 minutes, gentlemen, Jubilee Party, can we say it is still in survival or is as good as dead? The question is, fine, out Morave, out Kioni, perhaps out former President Uhuru Kenyatta, out all these key figures of Jubilee, then you're left with the Sabina Sheges of today, the Kanini Kegas of today. Can they hold the party? Let's ask him first. Can they hold the party?
I have always have mistrust with Jubilee.
Is it?
I've always
Eric
had the
Ragalo.
mistrust. Before election, Linda, and you remember very well, I told you that I don't trust Jubilee. Of course, we were together in Azimio. I never trusted them because of how they were handling election, especially in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Mount Kenya was left for Jubilee to take care of and to bring the votes. If election was stolen in Mount Kenya the way they keep saying, I mean Mushendo, because that's what you hear them say, because you're from Mount Kenya like me. If the election was stolen in Mount Kenya, I'm saying if,
yes,
then where were they?
To have protected it.
To have protected it.
Okay.
I'll give an example. Governor Kiambu was the head of Jubilee elections in Kiambu and management of Jubilee elections and Azimio elections. Sorry, not Jubilee, but Azimio election. To an extent, people like Eric were asked not to stand so that we can give Jubilee space in their regions. How many MPs did they bring in with all the millions they were given to manage elections? It made me here, to use my own cash to campaign and make sure I protect the votes. Some of ODM people in Mount Kenya didn't even get the budgets to protect votes. They didn't even go in the classrooms or in the voting centers kusimamia kura. It was left for Jubilee. If elections were stolen in Mount Kenya, where was Jubilee? 2, after all that is done, what happened? They are the first people who ran out of Jubilee and left. Nyoro left immediately. If 2 weeks did end, Nyoro left. With his cahoot of people, made a very good press conference, Mushendo, and Nyoro left. If you really believed in Jubilee, why did you leave immediately? To me, Jubilee conned Azimio.
You're talking about Nyoro. Nyoro, the former...
Jubilee, not now Nyoro. I gave an example.
Of
to
who
give
left.
example others.
Okay.
Okay? Jubilee conned Azimio. They were given all the high offices in Azimio, plus the manager of national election was given to Governor Laikipia. All those. As we were put aside, I had no seat in anywhere in management of election. However, having left my seat, Jubilee conned Azimio into election, knowing very well they never meant it.
So you're happy that this is what is happening eventually?
Secondly,
as we sum it up, because
secondly, now we come, please add him some 2 minutes please. We come to Jubilee now, or losing, Uhuru, I'm giving quotes, losing Jubilee. Uhuru didn't lose Jubilee. It was meant to be lost. It is a game plan. Hii ni mechi.
Sasa unasema ya kwamba mlichezwa.
Hata sahi Uhuru anatupanga.
Anapanga Azimio.
Anapanga Azimio. Because if Uhuru really, and we are talking really, Jubilee to be lost? To go? Really?
Not
Uhuru?
possible.
Not possible.
Peter Moshe.
Then now, the leader of minority is now closed case. You cannot remove Sabina Chege. Because she's the leader of Jubilee. And the leader of Jubilee becomes what? The leader of minority. Aren't you saying this? It is a closed case.
What do you mean? They wanted Sabina Chege out.
No, I don't want to.
They wanted Sabina Chege out.
Yes.
So where does it place them right now? And what is the guarantee that they will hold it?
Now, I really don't like being dragged into the issues of Jubilee, because I tell you, Jubilee, I always equate Jubilee like a dead tycoon who never left his will, and the kids are fighting for the control of the estate. And that has been the issues of Jubilee. The same way the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta never thought of the need to have a successor of his politics in Mount Kenya, it is the same way he never saw the need to organize the affairs of Jubilee.
So it was by design.
And as a result, the courts, especially now the tribunal, the political parties tribunal, is the one that has now to settle the issues about Jubilee. Now, what has happened is that the so-called NDC they held at Gong Race Course now stands, and its resolution stands invalidated, null and void. And it is such a shame that as a former president, you would continue to be dragged in the issues of a political party. I thought when you retire as a president, you have done enough. Today, the president of, the former president of the US, Barack Obama, is retired. He's now just consultant on the
Would that be the best example we can give, knowing very well that he was out there campaigning for?
No, what I'm saying is, I have absolutely no problem with Uhuru coming out to campaign for anybody. He is a Kenyan and he has that right. But as a president who has been there for 10 years, and you know that you are not going to be the president again, you need to put together the affairs of the party, so that after an election, a political party does not seem to go into a turmoil. Today, you would be surprised that someone like Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete is a very strong pillar of CCM. He is actually in the decision-making of CCM, but do you see him, in quotes, he's playing his cards behind the... But I will tell you, if you ask me the issues of Jubilee and Kioni and Murathe being kicked out, I think these are issues that are by design.
By design.
They are by design.
Yes.
They are by design because given Kioni and Murathe, on the other side with an Iyara active member of parliament and an active member of parliament in the National Assembly who are equally younger and equally more vibrant, I would still go for Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege. Why would I want to leave a party to Kioni who has nothing to offer and Murathe who speaks as if he owns the republic?
I have worked with Kioni.
And
I would tell you, he's not a team player.
Completely.
I would tell you, I am so glad that people like Kioni are being taught a lesson, because as much as I did not agree with, let me tell you, as much as I did not agree with the affairs of Jubilee, one of the person who dealt a blow to the ambitions of so many young Kenyans who had pitched their hope with Jubilee Party is Jeremiah Kioni. He's one of the people who punished people of my age and those who are a little bit younger than me and failed to give them opportunity. And instead, he decided to give opportunity to the old who are moneyed. In fact, I dare say he sold the positions of the party to those who had it.
You know we have to have him here to defend
instead of
himself.
Giving it and in fact, I am happy that my friend, I am happy by the way, my friend Solomon Kuria starts validated by the decision of the tribunal, political party tribunal. The other day they harassed and assaulted him because of supporting Kanini Kega and Sabina, and I'm glad that his function has been given the control.
I would say this. I have been there with Solomon, I have been there with Kioni, and I will honestly tell you, though I'm a member of Azimio, and a very open, honest person, Kioni is not a team player.
That is why you've worked with him this long.
No.
Because he's not a team.
Me, I've never worked.
No, as Azimio,
in fact, I look at him. I even wonder why are they still holding him there. I even wonder why he's still in the meeting.
Are you saying this because then,
No, it's not about.
Be reminded.
It's my opinion, and it is Eric Ragalo speaking, not Azimio. I have been with him. You know me, I'm open and
I'll
open
also tell you. I'll also tell you.
And you will see this. TNA is coming back. They may want to revamp TNA to save face. To save face. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then how, if they could not save Jubilee, then what is there?
To save face.
Do you suppose that Jubilee then holds?
But now,
let me
ask you now. They are going to do an NDC in 1 or 2 weeks. If that NDC says now they're out of Azimio, okay? Which is going to be likely they're out of Azimio. So Kioni will be holding in Azimio as what?
Good question.
You know, I'm not a team player, and he's not a team player, and he's not a team player.
I think the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, wherever he is, must be smiling because this is Jeremiah Kioni who was his running mate. And where Kioni and his family voted, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi got 0.
You know Kioni.
So that is a team player.
So is that a team player?
Kioni has defended
Is that a team player? Or you want to tell us that Kioni's ballot was the one that
ask
got
him to
busted?
come here when we are here. He tells us, no, he comes alone. Why does he not want anybody else around?
Most of the times when he spoke to that, there was someone always. And they kept on reminding
I will ask him, even you didn't vote Musalia. Even your wife.
He says that is
doesn't. I will tell you.
That is neither here or there. It is there and there.
The ruling by the political parties tribunal on Jubilee, I don't see it as a win for Kanini Kega and Sabina Chega in a way. I also see it as a win for the young people who supported Jubilee political party, the people who are punished, the Solomon Kurias of today, there's this guy called Kina Mdalos of today, Kina Kansora Johi of today. It is a win for them because they have been vindicated that the union of Jeremiah Kioni and Murathe was a union that was set to kill the dreams of young people, and it has been stopped.
Gentlemen, let's close it at this very point. It's all the time we had. It's always good having you, Eric Ragai.